So Mark Schlereth was on with Steiny and Goose show last week. I think Giddings was in. But Schlereth is on. And the reason this came up was because the story that Albert Breer wrote recently documented a time, August training camp last year. Trent Williams and Fred Warner are walking to the locker room. They don't realize that Purdy's right behind him. Because why would they? Because who can see him? He's so tiny. So they're walking to the locker room. Purdy's right behind him, but they don't know that. Warner says to Williams, I cannot wait to see what Purdy does tomorrow in practice. I can't wait to see what he does next. Expressing excitement about what this kid out of the 7th round is showing the team. This is in the midst of it's Trey's team, Jimmy's getting re-signed, Sudfeld's got guaranteed money, all that. And Fred Warner says to Trent Williams, I can't wait to see what this kid does next. Purdy overhears it. And can you imagine the warm fuzzy that goes through your body at age 22 at the time to hear two absolute dignitaries of the football field like that say that about you?
Yeah, and the leader of the defense, too.
Yeah.
The leader of the ones.
Oh, how cool. Okay, so Mark Schlereth comes on and shares this story about him being in a camp with an early draft pick quarterback and a 7th round draft pick quarterback.
We all know who can and can't. It's apparent from day one. You know, I always tell this story. When I was with Washington, and I was late in my career, late in my career in Washington, but, you know, in the middle of my career as an NFL football player, we drafted 2 guys, one in the 1st round to play quarterback, one in the 7th round. The very first practice, this is no lie, the very first minicamp practice that year in May, we went through, the veterans went through as the starters went through and ran 20 plays a team. And then we went on the sideline, and the first-year guys and the young guys ran 20 plays a team. And these 2 quarterbacks were going at it, and I turned to the guys that were on the offensive line, the Hogs, and I go, mark my word, today, first day of minicamp, the guy we took in the 7th round is 10 times better than the guy we took in the 1st round. 10 times better. It's not even close. The guy in the 7th round was Gus Farad. The guy in the 1st round was Heath Schuler. Oh, it took me 4 reps of each of those guys to play and go, that dude can't play, the other guy can. So players know, and players, when you disregard what everybody sees with their own eyes as an organization, all the people in charge, the coaching staff, the general manager, everybody loses credibility. So I applaud Kyle, I applaud John for doing what's right, is playing the best guys.
Oof. I find that to be incredibly interesting because what is at the core of this entire debate that I find frustrating is that when you're saying that Trey Lance hasn't been given a shot, Brock Purdy's been anointed too early. If this is your opinion, you're free to have it, but I want you to be clear on what you're saying. You're saying that Kyle Shanahan and the rest of the 49ers staff are buffoons. They are buffoons who don't know football. And I know that some of you are responding right now and saying, they are! They've messed up the quarterback assessment every time. Okay, do you believe that Kyle Shanahan and the current 49ers staff, with what they've done over the last 6 years, do they know a thing or two? Do they know a thing or two about what they're seeing in practice? Does Fred Warner know a thing or two? Does Trent Williams know a thing or two? I had someone on Twitter earlier today say, the only people who think that Brock Purdy is any good are casuals. I said, oh. I just responded and said, I'll let Fred Warner know that you think he is a casual. Just own your opinion. It's fine to have it, but own it. If you think that Trey Lance, oh gosh, this is unfair, and Brock Purdy's if you think that the 49er brass are a bunch of idiots.
Can I be that guy?
Sure.
Because I'm going off in just a mini little,
right
not
ahead.
Even a tangent, but Brock Purdy better be better than Gus Farad. Because I know there's people driving around there.
Yeah, right.
And we don't need to even get into a conversation about that.
That's fair.
But it did, among the many things, it popped into my head. Because as I look up Gus Farrad's stats.
Well, stats, when you go back to that era also are muted.
He had a 15-year career.
I know, but like passing stats just within the last 10 years.
I'm not even going to give you
have all gotten
I'm not.
steroid juice. You're not right.
I just took it that far.
I
don't even care what the numbers are.
Right.
One thing to add to that really quick, he did have a much better career than Heath Schuler. So Schlereth was right in his evaluation.
No
not
question.
that either of them were great, but
it's just it's a point that I've brought up a bunch of times that y'all get to, everybody has their own football brain and their own wants and desires, and that's all fair. The idea, if there are those of you out there that are thinking Trey Lance deserved some other regular season shot right now, I wonder if you're all aware of how completely and totally rejected that idea would be by the team. The players on the team would not have it. They're there every day. They've watched everything. They know. Fred Warner knows what it's like to defend passes from all the different QBs in camp. There's no way that a veteran-laden team would still look at Kyle Shanahan as a credible head coach if, after everything they've achieved last year and what they know and have seen, if they tried to put Trey Lance into a regular season game because of where he was drafted. They flat out wouldn't have it.
No, they can't happen. It just, can't, no. And I think they understand that, and I think that's why that's why it's been obvious to those that have been paying attention that Brock Purdy was going to be the starting quarterback, assuming that Brock Purdy was healthy enough to be.
And I get excited based on what we saw in the regular season when I hear that people like Fred Warner thought last August, he's special. And he thought that 3 months before we saw Brock.
Well, the excitement from my standpoint is the fact that if you use Jimmy Garoppolo, let's say, as a baseline for... Yeah, he was pretty good in the system overall. Not perfect. They won a lot of games. We all know how it played out. Well, Brock leveled up from Jimmy in terms of the big plays and the red zone and the ability to even escape and make some off-schedule plays within that system. So his ability to make the play that needed to be made in front of him, but also make bigger plays that just gave the 49ers more breathing room.
Yeah.
Everything with Garoppolo, everything was constantly tight always. Like if they were up 3, you felt like they should have been up 17, and if they were behind by 10, you felt like they should have been up by 3. And there was less of that with Purdy because he was able to make a few off-schedule plays. He was able to make some back-breaking plays to the opposition that allowed the 49er defense to play from a position of advantage to where they could just end the game.
Yeah, there were a lot of laughers, especially early. There really were. And then when he needed to come back against the Raiders, for example, he did that too. Real quick, Tay in West Oakland. Hey, Tay, you're on with Willard and JD. What you doing? How you doing?
Hello?
Yep, you're on, Tay. Go ahead.
Oh, right on, brother. How's it going, man? Hey, listen up, bro. I want you guys to remind me. I'm trying to figure out in week 1 last year, 2022. Of course, Trey Lance got hurt, right? And I think it was week 2. I'm not too sure, but my thing is, when did Christian McCaffrey join the 49ers? And I know that the offense wasn't nowhere near when Trey Lance was starting week 1 in that monsoon in Chicago, anybody's game. But I believe that Purdy inherited a solid offensive team. He had a healthy Kittle and of course a game changer McCaffrey. Brock Purdy never had an opportunity. I mean, Trey Lance never had an opportunity to play with those guys. So the offense was pretty much on board before Purdy got there, man.
Yeah, Tay, it's not that that's not true, and you can call that a bad break for Trey Lance, but I made this comment to Goo yesterday. I've never seen a running back in the history of the NFL make a quarterback. Like, just the presence of Christian McCaffrey is not going to suddenly make Trey Lance look comfortable and be accurate and make good decisions, all of those things. Would it have been a little easier? I guess. Having great weapons is wonderful, but Christian McCaffrey by himself is not going to make a quarterback, because if he can, his salary needs to be tripled. His salary, it needs to be tripled.